Namaskar. Welcome to this session. We have been dealing with Yatamana Sagnya Vairagya. Yatamana, Niyatamana. So, it is a process of moderation and temperance. Now, this concept of moderation or temperance, it is not like thermometer and temperature of human body. You can't say that this particular level means yatamana sagnya vairagya or this particular level means moderation and anything below it is immoderation and anything above it is a better moderation. So the point is that this concept of moderation is very, very subjectivistic. That means we have to have our own judgment of moderation and temperance. That nobody else can really say that. And again, the level of moderation and temperance is not a standard for that person also. See, it depends upon evolution of one's consciousness in spiritual realm. See, like we have the concept in economics about essentials, comforts, and luxuries. So, there, it is not that particular level is called essentials, and then particular level is called comforts, and then particular level is called luxuries, etc. Point is that there is no meter outside you to test whether you have temperance and how much is your temperance, whether you are moderate and how much you are moderate. It depends upon so many aspects. Usually we have two classes of people roughly, materialistic people and spiritualistic people, or materialistic people and non-materialistic people. So we can't say that particular level is temperance in a materialistic man and particular level is temperance in non-materialistic man or spiritually inclined person. But I am trying to say that there is no such meter. You can't have a temperance meter which will show you whether you are temperate or not. Or there won't be any moderation meter to tell you whether you are moderate or immoderate. So this is very, very subjectivistic judgment. And again, let me tell you quite interestingly, for a person, one person, when person, the stages of life for that person, in different stages of life, it would be again flexible, it would be changing. Like what you call as nonsense. Now it corresponds to age. That means that won't be nonsense in particular age, but after that age, if you still are in the same way of intellectual strata or in the same intellectual level, then it will be called nonsense. So even for one person, the person won't be tagged as nonsense if that person is in a teenage. Now same person becomes adult, then it would be tagged as nonsense. then the same is not nonsense. Uh, what is nonsense in particular age will become more nonsense in later age. So there's that subjectivistic aspect, whether something is nonsense or not. So one thing is about age, the other thing is about the condition that a person is in. So the extraneous condition, situation in which a person is caught, so that will be taken into account whether somebody has done nonsense or not. Say the person in a tremendous fear, then something will be nonsense. If there is fear, or something will not be nonsense just because the person is engulfed by fear. So there are so many factors which influence to really tag a person whether person is nonsense or not. However, there are certain standard levels, and then with that we will be tagging someone as nonsense or not nonsense. So there are both the flexible levels and inflexible levels. Anyway, we are trying to deal with temperance here. So the temperance will depend upon, particularly here when we are dealing in yoga, what is one's level in yoga, and that will decide temperance or intemperance. So what is very good temperance on a lower one who is on lower level of yoga, that will become intemperance on little higher level of yoga. Have you understood this? What is temperance in particular level of yoga? On little higher level of it, it will become intemperance. And perhaps on further higher level, it can become frolicsome. The person might be tagged as frolicsome person. So this is what we have got to understand. The point is that this is very subjectivistic judgment that we have to have. Where were we and where are we now? The desire, the thirst, the lust, etc. What was the level earlier, and how far have we overcome it? So if we overcome to whatever extent, it is only that we would be knowing whether we have overcome it or not. So therefore, it is for us to have our own judgment, how far we have attained temperance and moderation. And what is temperance today should become intemperance tomorrow. What is temperance today should become intemperance tomorrow. So that's the sign of our evolvement. If the temperance continues over years and years and years, that means we are not evolving. So the point is that temperance and intemperance are very relative concepts, even with respect to one person. So what is temperance for you today will not be temperance tomorrow. And what is intemperance for you today will be more intemperance tomorrow. So therefore some thought should be spared here, because we need to develop our own judgment about temperance and moderation. There is no meter to suggest that this is a temperate level and this is the moderate level, or this is intemperate and that is immoderate. So we can't depend upon some extraneous mechanical device to have an assessment of our own temperance and moderation, nor can we depend on someone else to certify our level of temperance and moderation. It is very, very, very subjectivistic. And therefore, it also tells us that this temperance and moderation is a long, long way. It's almost the spread of an ocean. So we have to go a long way. So if we are temperate today, in our assessment, there should be no room for any complacency. That I have been temperate, I am temperate. There is nothing like same temperance giving you condition that I am being temperate. So it should be definitely intemperance. Sooner, the better. Then you will be in a process of evolvement. So although the words temperance and intemperance have opposite meanings, we should understand that it is very, very subjectivistic. So what is temperate today for us will not be temperate tomorrow if we are on a progressive trend and progressive path. And we have to take utmost care to see that the temperance doesn't become intemperance. So we must be having hawk's eyes on ourselves, because with some complacency it can happen that the temperance can dwindle. So therefore it must be constantly monitored, and care must be taken to see that the temperance is progressive, moderation is progressive. So that is one thing. And for general understanding, let me tell you, it also depends upon economic strata of a person. What will be temperance for a very affluent person will not be temperance taken as temperance by a person on a lower economic strata. So even in materialistic realm or material realm, if somebody wants to practice this vairagya, the monitoring of temperance and gauging of temperance depends upon all these factors. If a very poor man, economically on lower strata, tries to behave like and emulate life of a richer person, that will be immoderation, even if that rich person is temperate and moderate. Therefore, even in the material realm, we have to understand that it is a flexible concept, and although the words are of opposite meaning, if we take temperance and intemperance side by side, moderation and immoderation side by side, moderation can be immoderation, immoderation can be moderation. So, since little social reference came here, that even when somebody is not in yoga, still whether the temperance is really needed, moderation is needed. Now, temperance and moderation is necessarily needed even for a materialistic person or one who is not in pursuit of yoga or spirituality. It is important to be in temperance and moderation. If you recall, on earlier occasion we had seen that for health, ensuring better health and good health, we must recognize the importance of temperance and not encourage frolicsome life and that liberalism in our consumptions. So, for the sake of health, we must have temperance and moderation, whether you are in the path of spirituality, or not on it. And even if you are very, very materialistic person, still, for the sake of one's own health and one's own well-being, physical, mental well-being, temperance is a good advice. Moderation is good advice. Then to be succeeding in one's endeavor, it could be material endeavor, academic endeavor, business endeavor, professional endeavor, the temperance would definitely score importance. So that will keep us much more reformed, and therefore we'll be able to take huge strides in our vocation, in our academics, in our profession, in our business activity of life. But if you are given to this intemperance, the life would be in disarray. Whether you are leading very mundane life, materialistic life, or higher life. So the temperance is definitely a very good advice that everyone must understand, inculcate, imbibe. Of course, it is subjectivistic, the temperance, where you are, what is your thirst, what is your level of sensuality. Those who are very sensual people, they will definitely hamper their chances to evolve in their own realms. Even if it is not a spiritual realm, they will definitely uh, put their own life in jeopardy. And therefore, temperance is definitely a good advice as far as the health is concerned, and as far as one's evolution, even in the material realm, is concerned. And it becomes more important. Let us, if you take the wisdom of the Lord, it beautifully tells us about as to what is the thirst of one man, one human being. It is really enormous. The thirst of one human being is enormous. This kind of instruction comes in Mahabharata, this comes in Vishnu Puranam, and where they say that it is so monstrous, the sensuality, the thirst, the lust is so enormous, so monstrous, that the sages and seers in scriptures say that the entire glory of this planet, whatever glory is on the surface and whatever glory is underneath the surface, will not be sufficient for one man's hunger and thirst for gratification. Such enormity is the thirst and hunger. The sensuality, the sensual craze is so enormous that all the objects of this world, all the pleasurable objects of this world, will be insufficient for one man. And then you can understand that how we will be almost terrorist like, that unless we bulldoze the desires of other people, we will not be able to satisfy our desires. So we'll have to be atrocious. This is the enormity of human thirst, Trishna. The Trishna is so enormous that all the comforts, glories, enjoyments, delights which are available on this planet are insufficient for one man. Now, if you have one person so monstrous in thirst, you can imagine what would happen to people around him and the even entire population of the planet. So such is the thirst of one person can be such monstrous thirst. So it also defies social values. One may argue for the sake of arguing. After all, it's my personal life. I will take whatever enjoyment I want. Who can question me? No one should question me. It's my right. But today in our civilized society, we understand you should have your liberty, but you should not be infringing on the liberties of others. So if one decides to take all pleasures that comes one's way and which are available, or even if they are not available, can be grabbed, if somebody decides on it to pounce upon all pleasures and take it, he will be indeed a monster. He will be indeed a terrorizing monster. You can imagine what will happen to society. So even for social values to be followed, we need to have some kind of restraint exercised. But otherwise we are totally libertine and totally frolicsome, then we are not less than monsters about whom we have read in mythologies. And therefore, for even social order, temperance is advocated. So for personal health, temperance is advocated. Personal health and well-being, temperance is only the way. Intemperance is not the way. It will be antagonizing that purpose. So also for one's evolution, even if it is materialistic evolution, you need to embrace some temperance and moderation. If you become victims of your own senses and sensory whims, that will thwart your progress. So that's what is called as sensory control is so important, even for one who is not in spiritual path. Then you can understand how it becomes more important in spiritual path. And then just as we understood, even to be a good social animal, we need to practice some temperance. So on all corners of intemperance, we see there is danger. And for safety, we need to have temperance practiced, inculcated, imbibed, at least recognize the importance of temperance. And then in spiritual path, it becomes more important because the Upanishads have repeatedly told us that we'll be weaned away from any spiritual goal with intemperance playing havoc, immoderation playing havoc. So that's a dreadful picture perhaps for you of human thirst. So enormous is human thirst. And that's why we have created ecological imbalance in last couple of decades, what we have done to the whole nature around us. It testifies that human thirst is really endless and enormous. So that is one thing, how thirst is dangerous, monstrous, devastating. The whole, not only human life, but entire life on the planet. The human thirst will also cost all other living creatures, including vegetation on the planet. So it is human beings who have created ecological imbalance, and you will see that the source of that is human thirst, human passion, human lust. It is because the man has been intemperate and immoderate that the man has played havoc with the resources of the planet, and even he has torn into the atmosphere. It is because of human craze and human lust, and human greed, human thirst, that we have spoiled the atmosphere. The ozone layers have been torn to irreparable extent. And what lies under all this devastation that we have seen in our times, what lies under all this is human thirst, human greed, human selfishness, human consumerism. On the other hand, we will see that again, the wisdom of the Lord tells us that it is very difficult to tame this monster. Yes, on one hand, the thirst is a monster, greed is a monster, thirst is a monster, avairagya is a monster, intemperance is a monster, immoderation is a monster. But again, see how we have plight here, that human body, this is something that comes in Padma Puranam. This is wonderful poetry in Padma Purana. Quite a lyricized passage, but having wonderful message to convey. So I will be giving you a gist of it. The human body, although it catches up aging, or aging catches up with the human being, although the body becomes fragile, weak by aging, the hair will have gone grey, and perhaps hair will have fallen, the teeth will have fallen, but human desire for wealth, money, doesn't dwindle. That means man cannot be consuming, yet the thirst doesn't go. Man may not be able to consume because of the given condition of the body. For a person who has become very old, very fragile, very old, very, very old, decrepit, yes, yet the thirst doesn't dwindle. What the poet is trying to say, that even if the person is not able to consume because of the motor system debilitated, yet the thirst will be in the mind, and the mind will be vibrating with thirst. Although the body cannot be consuming, senses cannot be consuming, the mind is ever young. See, all our five senses get weakened when we are in ripe old age and very old age. They get tired and fatigued, and they become debilitated. So although we are proceeding towards aging, for a materialistic man, the thirst is clinging on to youth, or proceeds to more and more youth. That is how the thirst is. The thirst goes on, can become younger and younger and younger and younger, although the body becomes older and older. So just as a weaver pierces the needle into the cloth for the act of weaving, the Trishna easily gets into our life like a needle, and goes on weaving the desire, increasing lust, etc. Like a particular animal has with the age, the horns go on growing. The thirst goes on growing as a person ages. So desire or thirst for money, thirst for enjoyments, thirst for wealth doesn't dwindle. And therefore, this monster clutches onto us. We cannot be really fighting with this monster because this is within our psyche, within our mind, and then ever growing. The mystic poet has somewhere said, our tongue is always having a pink age. Pink color is a color of enjoyment and joy, and our tongue is always pink. However old you might grow, the tongue remains pink, and therefore it is ever young. Because figuratively, young age is called as pink age, pink phase in life, and tongue is ever pink, and therefore, even similarly, the thirst is ever pink. So it is really difficult to fight with this monster. Therefore, if you recall, I had said earlier that it is a monster should be fought with some trick and some strategies. So, if you recall that. But then, is it that as it is a formidable enemy? Then is it really that we are defeated all the time? The best way to counter this thirst is fragrance of sublimity. The fragrance of sublimity, nobility, will weaken the thirst. And therefore you will understand how it is important to go for satsanga, sattva sangha, sadhu sangha. Although it is a monster, we can really counter this monster, and Adhyatma tells us the trick is that the sublimity, atmosphere of sublimity, atmosphere of nobility will definitely weaken the passion air, and the passion will find a kind of repellent, and therefore Adhyatma doesn't lose hope. Adhyatma tells us about ways and means. You can overcome thirst not by whiplashing your tendencies. Only way is to go for satsanga, sattva sangha, sadhu sangha, satvik ahar vihar achar vichar, and then the sadhana, which is mentioned in Adhyatma, the shastra sangha, which is also given by tradition. So again, the whole set of practices which are held very important by yoga, such as the principle of yajna dana tapa, then satsanga, sadhana sangha, shastra sangha, and satvik ahar vihar achar vichar will certainly work as a repellent for vasanas, repellent for tendencies, repellent for thirst, and we really don't have to put up a fight in one sense. However, again, it is no way to be taken to be understood as something as rose orchards. Spirituality these days is taken as rose orchards. That's pseudo spirituality, as I say. It is said to be, very rosy path, that you are quiet, you are serene, you are untormented, etc., etc. But we should be understood that why then tapas is mentioned in classical Adhyatma. In Hindu Adhyatma, nowhere they tell you about all these tapas, etc. It's a bed of roses. They give us portray a picture of as it is a bed of roses, and the path with all rose petals spread for you. But then tapas is needed. So, if we take complete view of sadhana sangha, in sadhana sangha there is sthula sharir sadhana, sukshma sharir sadhana, karana sharir sadhana, and sometimes even mahakarana sharir sadhana, and then tapas does come there. Patanjali in two places mentions tapas. So of course we'll be looking at tapas when we come to tapas. But if you recall, in the enunciation to Abhyasa and Vairagya, we had this point surfacing that like vehicle has to be coming on a lower gear for upward trading and even downward trading. Up the ghat and down the ghat we have to come to lower gears. So there is higher combustion. Heat is increased. Car becomes gets heated up by coming on driving in lower gears. So that is why the word tapas has come, which has reference to temperatures. We need to work on restraint. It's not a very rosy path. However, like in our meal plate, we have some sweets also served. The sweets are also served. It's not all through pungent, and it's not that you must be in asceticism of mendicant parching your life. So a wonderful combination, the compound of all those things come. However, tapas is so important to be countering these thirst, which is really boundless. I remember Taittiriya Aranyaka mentioning that this kama is like ocean, and the ocean is like kama. Like, ocean has turbulence. You don't see ocean like, steady lake. You know what is the turbulence of ocean. So therefore he says kama is like ocean is like kama. Kama means bubbles coming up, all kinds of rufflings coming up. Just as this ocean doesn't have end, the kama also doesn't have end. So of course we should be dreaded about this kama. As students in spirituality, adhyatma, we must be dreaded about this kama. It is indeed a monster, and it is indeed a formidable force. And everything is not goody path as it is portrayed today in New Adhyatma. It is very goody path. That is not true. Anyway, Yatamanasa Vairagya will be extending like the horizon of the ocean. The more you enter the ocean, the more horizon extends beyond, further and further. So similarly, it is like ocean. Even temperance is like ocean. Moderation is like ocean. So we need to go a long way in Yatamana Vairagya. So Yatamana Vairagya is not just one or two steps taken in life. There are steps after steps to be taken in Yatamana Sagnya Vairagya to land to the next stage of Vairagya, which is called Vyatireka Vairagya. If you recall, I told you that Gita Shastra, Yoga Shastra mentions about Yatamana Sagnya Vairagya, Ekendriya Sagnya, Vyatireka Sagnya Vairagya, Ekendriya Sagnya Vairagya, and Patanjali is mentioning Vashikara Sagnya Vairagyam, which is the highest Vairagya in the lower Vairagya. So lower Vairagya has 4 stages, and we have been discussing Yatamana Sagnya Vairagya. So more we are temperate, more we need to become temperate. The more we become temperate, there is more and more to become temperate. The more and more we become temperate, the more and more we have to become temperate. Particularly in the path of Adhyatma, Yoga, or what you call as spirituality. It is progressive, indeed progressive, and It will involve a very long journey. Yet you will be on the plane of Yatamana, but lot of scope to evolve in Yatamana. Yatamana to more Yatamana, more and more Yatamana, more and more and more Yatamana, more and more and more and more Yatamana. But as you evolve in yoga consciousness, that it is not that much difficult. Although mathematically you can say it, Yatamana raised to 2, Yataman raised to 3, Yataman raised to 3, 4, 5, etc., etc. But once you are well disposed in Adhyatma Yoga, then the difficulty factor will not commensurate with what idea we have about it. Anyway, so that is Yatamana Sagnya Vairagya. For those in the field of yoga, if you evolve your consciousness, you will see Yatamana goes on expanding, like the horizon expanding as we move towards the horizon. But anyway, it's all temperance and temperance and temperance. Yesterday's temperance will be today's intemperance, and today's temperance will be tomorrow's intemperance. And therefore, it's a long way to go in Yatamana Sagnya Vairagya. But ultimately, we will be coming to what is called as Vyatireka Sagnya Vairagyam, which will be the topic that we will be looking in our next session. So, namaskar all of you.